Hi, I'm Nina. My writing background is mostly in journalism and creative nonfiction, but since I joined Girls Right Now, I have been meaning to write a short story about my parents' experiences as newlyweds and recent immigrants to America. Their voices and stories filled my childhood, and now they've become a part of my own voice. What follows is an excerpt of a story I began during pair sessions this year. Sangeeta hung up the phone in exasperation. How many more times would she have to call the program director before he agreed to hire her? She took a breath and set her lips in a firm line. Oh well, I'll just have to call again next Monday. Since passing her medical board, Sangeeta was itching to start working again. It had been almost 3 years since she saw a patient, and there was only so much cooking and cleaning to be done. If I had stayed in India, I would have been a ward director at my hospital by now. She shook her head, banishing the thought. Sangeeta had chosen to marry someone who lived in America and to start over here, so there was no point turning over the what-ifs in her mind. She picked up the phone again and dialed her friend Kiran. Hi Kiran, how are you? Want to go to the movies? I need to get out of the house. Thank goodness for Kiran. They had met at a party at the company where both their husbands worked as engineers. Kiran was applying for jobs as a biochemist, but she hadn't had any luck so far. In the meantime, Sangeeta and Kiran had taken ballet lessons, played tennis at the YMCA, and learned how to swim. If it weren't for her, Sangeeta was sure she would have died of loneliness after coming to America.
Hi, my name is Rachel Zhao, and I will be reading my piece, Letters. The theme this year for Girls Right Now is voice to voice, so I wanted to pay tribute to the literary voices that have inspired and guided me as I grew as a person and a writer. So I wrote a letter to some of the most influential female literary heroines in my life, including Roald Dahl's Matilda and Charlotte Bronte's Jane Eyre. Dear Matilda, you are the nicer version of Stephen King's Carrie, and my 6-year-old self was enthralled. I had never met anyone else who loved books as much as I did, who believed in the possibilities beyond their world, housed in the bound pages. I felt a kinship with you, right there in the bunk bed that I shared with my sister. We were both book lovers by necessity, you with your absent parents, and me with 2 immigrant parents with full-time jobs. Nor had I ever met any girl with so much power. All the comic book superheroes were boys. Encyclopedia Brown, the Hardy Boys, even 3/4 of the Boxcar Children were boys. They were the ones who found the stolen money and caught the criminals. They were the celebrated heroes of children's literature, until I met you. At first, I didn't realize how dark your demons were, with emotionally negligent parents and a tyrannical, abusive principal. But you were my first taste of power and rebellion. It wasn't just your telekinesis that drew me in, although I will admit that after reading your book, I spent 2 weeks trying to pick up a jug of water with my eyes. It was the utter ruthlessness with which you executed your plans. I had never seen or experienced such certainty in any truth or cause. In my 6-year-old mind, the adults were always right. They were the faceless giants that somehow knew what was best. But you had this unbelievable faith in your own right and wrong, in exacting justice on a continued injustice. You, a small, plucky 4-year-old girl, defeated the enormous, obnoxious Principal Trunchbull. You were the David to Cruncham Hall's Goliath. You were my first superhero. Dear Miss Eyre, I have a bone to pick with you. You'll notice that I address you in this letter by your maiden surname. I had faith in you, Jane. You were ahead of your time. You possessed a sense of self-worth and dignity that went beyond just being someone's wife. You are the star of my favorite piece of 19th century British romantic literature. And that means that, yes, I do like your story more than Pride and Prejudice. You were not afraid of being plain. You weren't always witty and courageous. Sometimes you were awkward and would overreact and say the wrong things. But you had a fierce sense of integrity, one that I was sure you would hold on to as you drifted from the dreariness of the Lowood School to Thornfield Hall. But you also became a victim of the social norms of your writer's time, because you married him, Jane. I'm aware that I'm speaking ill of, debatably, one of the most desirable men in literature. But that still does not change the fact that he locked up his mentally ill wife in the attic and wasn't going to tell you until you two were well and married. You left him, Jane, because you could not bear the shame of being his mistress. But then you went back to him, and I felt the helplessness of being a reader as you returned to the smoldering cinders of Thornfield Hall. You are smart and driven and flawed, and in my eyes, you made a mistake that I, as a reader, will have to live with. Because I can't make your choices for you. I read your story before my junior year, and now I'm about to go to college. You've always been so sure of the choices that you've made, and I'm not sure I'll be able to say the same. I'm not sure I would be as self-assured as you are. I'm not sure what I would do if someone thought of my choices the way I think of yours. But you were happy in the end. You ended your story with 3 paragraphs of exposition about how everyone lived happily ever after. I suppose I can only hope for something close, and thank you for all that you've taught me. With great admiration, Rachel Zhao.